Hey everyone, welcome back. We're diving into something you guys have been asking about for a while now. Figuring out the best times to post on Instagram to get the most engagement. And to help us crack this code, we've got some awesome insights from the SocialWick Podcast, Volume 18.
That's right. SocialWick did a deep dive into Instagram engagement and came up with some pretty interesting findings. But before we get into that,
Yeah.
I think it's important to remember that every audience is different. What works for one account might not work for another.
Makes sense. So let's start with the basics. What were some of SocialWick's key takeaways? I know they talked about 3 p.m. on weekdays and 6 p.m. on weekends being prime time for engagement overall.
Yeah, those are definitely good starting points. They found that those times tend to see the highest levels of activity across the board. But like I said before, it's not a one-size-fits-all kind of thing.
Right. So what else did SocialWick have to say about timing? Did they mention anything about the different days of the week or how engagement patterns change throughout the day?
They did. They actually found that engagement tends to climb gradually throughout the morning on weekdays, reaching that peak around 3 p.m. And then things kind of quiet down until the evening.
Huh. Interesting. And what about weekends?
Weekends are a bit different. Engagement is pretty low throughout the day with a sudden spike around 6 p.m. Maybe everyone's wrapping up their weekend activities and finally checking their phones.
Huh. That makes sense. So we've got these general timeframes from SocialWick. But how can we use that information to tailor our posting schedule to our specific audience?
Well, the key is to understand your audience's habits and behaviors. And luckily, Instagram gives us a tool to do just that.
Analytics.
Exactly. Your Instagram analytics can tell you so much about when your followers are most active, what kind of content they engage with the most, and even their demographics. It's like a treasure trove of information.
Okay, so we're not just blindly posting at 3 p.m. hoping for the best. We're actually using data to guide our strategy.
Exactly. You want to be strategic about when you're posting to maximize your reach and engagement. And your analytics can help you do just that.
This is already making me want to dive headfirst into my analytics dashboard. So we've covered the general timeframes. But did SocialWick get into any specific days of the week? Like, are some days better than others for engagement?
Oh, yeah, definitely. They actually found that Monday and Friday were the top performing days for engagement.
Wow, really? I would have thought the weekends would be more popular.
Yeah, it's a bit counterintuitive, but that's what the data showed. And then on the flip side, Sunday was actually the least engaging day.
So should we just avoid posting on Sundays altogether? I always thought consistency was key.
Well, it's not about avoiding Sundays completely. You still want to maintain a presence throughout the week. It's more about being strategic with your content.
Okay, so maybe save our most important posts for those peak days like Monday and Friday.
Exactly. Use those high engagement days to your advantage.
Yeah.
And then on Sundays, maybe just share something light and fun to keep the conversation going.
Got it. So consistency is still important. But we can be smarter about when we share certain types of content. This is already a game changer.
Absolutely. And speaking of content, there's another crucial element to consider.
Ooh, I'm intrigued. What makes a post truly stand out on a crowded feed?
Well, it's all about quality. You can be posting at the perfect time, but if your content isn't engaging, people are just going to scroll right past.
Yeah, that makes sense. So it's not just about when we post, but what we post.
Exactly. And this is where understanding your audience really comes into play.
Okay, so how do we do that?
Well, think about what kind of content they're looking for. Are they looking for inspiration,
Yeah.
education,
Yeah.
entertainment?
Right. A mix of all three, probably.
Yeah.
And how does Instagram's algorithm play into all of this? That's something I'm still trying to wrap my head around.
Yeah, the algorithm can be a bit of a mystery,
Yeah.
but essentially it's designed to show people the content they're most likely to engage with.
So the more engagement our posts get, the more likely they are to be seen by more people.
Exactly. So if your posts are getting likes, comments, shares, saves, that's a signal to Instagram that your content is valuable and they'll show it to a wider audience.
Okay, so we need to create content that people actually want to interact with. But with so many accounts out there, how do we make sure ours stands out?
That's where authenticity comes in. People can spot a fake from a mile away. So don't be afraid to be yourself. Let your personality shine through. What are you passionate about? What unique perspective can you bring to the table?
I love that. Being genuine is so important. It's like finding your tribe online. People who connect with you on a real level.
Exactly. And once you've found your tribe, you need to nurture those relationships. Don't just broadcast your message, engage with your followers, respond to comments, ask questions in your captions.
Make it a two-way conversation.
Yes, make people feel seen and heard. When you build those authentic connections, the likes and followers will follow naturally.
It's not about chasing vanity metrics. It's about building a community.
Exactly. And that community is built on shared interests and values.
Right.
So make sure your content reflects that.
I'm starting to see the bigger picture here. It's not just about posting times. It's about creating a holistic Instagram strategy that encompasses everything from content quality to audience engagement.
Exactly. And that strategy should always be evolving. What works today might not work tomorrow.
So true. So we need to be adaptable and willing to experiment.
Absolutely. Keep analyzing your data, stay curious, and don't be afraid to try new things.
This is making me so excited to dive back into my analytics and see what I can learn. I feel like I've got a whole new set of tools now.
That's great to hear. And remember, you're not alone on this journey. We're always here to help you navigate the ever-changing world of Instagram.
I really appreciate that. So we've talked a lot about strategy, but before we wrap things up, I want to touch on something that SocialWick mentioned. It's the idea that while guidelines are helpful,
Sometimes you have to break the rules.
exactly, they said that the best strategy is ultimately the one that works best for you and your audience, and sometimes that means thinking outside the box.
I completely agree. Social media is all about innovation and creativity. Don't be afraid to experiment and try something new.
You never know what might go viral.
Right. Or spark a new trend. So don't be afraid to take risks and see what happens.
So we covered a lot of ground today. We started with those peak times from SocialWick, like 3 p.m. on weekdays and 6 p.m. on weekends. You know?
Those benchmarks are a great place to start, but
Yeah.
as we talked about, your audience is unique.
Totally. So to really nail your Instagram game, you've got to tap into your analytics.
Yeah, those analytics are like your secret weapon. They can give you so much insight into what makes your audience tick.
Right, like when they're most active, what kind of content they're craving, and even where they're from. That's super valuable.
Absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
And once you have that knowledge, you can start fine-tuning your posting schedule to match your audience's rhythm.
It's all about working with your audience, not against them.
Exactly. And remember those surprising findings from SocialWick about Monday and Friday being the engagement powerhouses and Sunday being...
A little bit quieter.
Yeah. It's interesting how the social media world has its own weekly flow.
Totally. But even though Sunday might be a little slower, it's still important to show up consistently.
Yeah. Keep that connection going. Share something light and fun, maybe. Don't go silent.
Right. It's about finding that sweet spot between consistency and strategy, knowing when to hit those peak times with your most awesome content.
Exactly. And don't be afraid to play around with it a little. Experiment, analyze your data. See what works best for your audience.
This whole deep dive has been a total game changer for me. I'm so pumped to go back and look at my analytics with fresh eyes.
I love to hear that. And remember, it's all about continuous learning. Keep experimenting. Stay curious.
And don't be afraid to break the rules every now and then, right?
Absolutely. Sometimes the biggest breakthroughs come from trying something unexpected.
So to wrap things up, listener, I want to leave you with a little challenge. What's one thing you've learned about your audience from your analytics that surprised you? And how can you use that knowledge to level up your Instagram strategy? Remember, social media is constantly changing, so be adaptable, stay engaged, and most importantly, have fun connecting with your amazing audience. That's it for today's deep dive. Catch you next time.